Alright, welcome back, families. We are going to do regrouping with 2 and 3 digit numbers, and we're going to try that with addition and subtraction. So many students have mastered addition regrouping, so I'm just going to quickly show one of those problems. So I'll do 326 plus 517. If I was going to do the regrouping strategy, I would start in the ones place. For some students, it might be helpful to label at the top hundreds, tens, and ones if they're still struggling with the place value. When I start in the ones place, a lot of students, we've been working with this strategy by circling so we can focus on only 2 digits at a time. So 6 plus 7, I can write that to the side as 13. When I go to regroup, I need to think, do I need to regroup or not? So when I go to regroup in the ones place, I have to think, is the digit larger than 9? If it's more than 9, I'm going to need to regroup because there's only one space in the ones place. If the digit is greater than 9, like 10, that's a 2-digit number, so that's a clue that I need to regroup. So 13 is a 2-digit number. The reason that we write it off to the side like this is so students can see the 3 in the ones place and the extra group of 10 that needs to be regrouped. So for 13, I can put a 3 in the ones place, and this extra group of 10 needs to go into the tens place. If your student says put the 1 in the tens place or put the 1 over there, please try to encourage them to use better vocabulary than that, because this is not a 1. It's either 1, 10, like one group of 10, or it's the 10. They need to put the 10 over to the tens place. So after I've done the ones place, I can move into the tens place, and same strategy, I can circle. Students can either think about this as 10 plus 20 plus 10. They cannot say 1 plus 2 plus 1 because that does not show understanding of place value. They can think about this as one group of 10 plus 2 groups of 10 plus one group of 10. So a lot of students, we've worked on thinking about this as a number string, 1 plus 2 plus 1. But they need to understand that this is one group of 10 plus 2 groups of 10 plus one group of 10. If they just say 1 plus 2 plus 1, encourage them to add that word 10 in there. So if I add 2 and 2 plus 1 plus 1, groups of 10, 20, 30, 40. I write that off to the side. That way I can see that there are 0 ones, so the ones place would not change. I have 4 tens, so a 4 goes into the tens place. When I add my hundreds, 300 plus 500 is 800. Same thing here. Students might think about this as 3 plus 5, and same thing for over with the tens. That's okay to think that, but they need to say 300 plus 500 or 300s plus 500. We cannot think about this as 3 plus 5. If your student is saying that, just remind them that that's the hundreds place. So my sum would be 843. Encourage your student to use the right vocabulary. 843 is my sum, and the numbers that I'm adding are my add-ins. So 326 and 517 are my add-ins, and 843 is my sum. It's really important that students become familiar with this vocabulary, as they'll see it on tests, and they have to figure out which operation to use. Okay, now I'm going to start with a subtraction problem. So I'm going to start with 735 minus 219. I'm going to first show you the mistake that students are making. So let me write that up here. This is not the right thing to do. This is a mistake. Students will get a 4 in the ones place, a 2 in the tens place, and a 5 in the hundreds place. The mistake here lies in the ones place. Students are subtracting upside down. They're saying 9 minus 5 and getting 4. This is an extremely common mistake. Even after I've taught this strategy many days, students are still subtracting upside down. If your student is doing that, they either need a lot of extra practice at home, or I would suggest going back and using the open number line. So I'm going to restart this the correct way, so this is no longer a mistake. If I start in the ones place, I see 5 minus 9. If your student's making that mistake like I just showed, encourage them to write that off to the side. 5 minus 9, seeing it written horizontally might help them realize that that would be a negative number, or for this year, they can just think, I can't solve that. We can't do 5 minus 9. I don't have enough. So that means if I don't have enough, I need to regroup. Where can I get more ones from? I can get them from the tens place. So right now I have 3 groups of 10. I'm going to take a group of 10 away. So now I only have 2 groups of 10. And I'm going to turn that into more ones. So right now, if we think about what's happening, and I draw place value blocks, I took a group of 10, and I turned it into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I turned it into more ones. There were already 5 ones. Now I'm adding 10 ones. So students can either do this in 2 ways. They might just write a 1 here because they know 10 and 5 is 15. Or students might completely cross the number out and write 15. Either of those is okay as long as they're seeing it as a group of 10 and the original 5. So now I can do 15 minus 9, and I get 6. I can quickly check that by adding, because addition is the inverse. 9 plus 6 is 15, so I got that right. When I go to the tens place, 2 tens minus 1 10 is 1 group of 10, or 20 minus 10 is 10. Same thing, students can think about this as 2 minus 1, but they need to say 2 tens minus 1 group of 10 is 10, or 20 minus 10 is 10. We want them using the correct vocabulary. When I go to the hundreds place, 700 minus 200 is 500. So my difference is 516. I would encourage students, if you are working at home, they can check their work with addition. So this was the total. I took the total, I subtracted part, and that left me with the other part. In class, we've also drawn total part boxes. My total was 735. Part of that number was 219. The other part is 516. So students can check their work by adding. When I go to add, I can take the 2 parts and add them together. So this is 1 part plus the other part should equal the total. So 219 plus 516. Same thing like I just showed in the first example. 9 plus 6 is 15. 5 goes into the ones place. The 10, the extra group of 10, goes to the tens place. Same thing up here. 10, 20, 30, or 3 groups of 10. If they see like a 3, they just think add a 0 because in the tens place. So a 3 in the tens place. 200 and 500 makes 700. So 735 was my original total that I started with. Okay, so I'm going to show one more example of subtraction with 3-digit numbers and the regrouping strategy. I'm going to start with 322 minus 79. Same thing, I'm going to start in the ones place, and don't forget to label if your student needs it, hundreds, tens, and ones. If I go to subtract 2 minus 9, again, they might need to see it written sideways because they will put a 7 here, and that is incorrect. They're subtracting upside down. So if I go to do 2 minus 9, I can't do it. I don't have enough, so I need to go to the tens place and get more ones. If I take a group of 10 away, I only have 1 group of 10 left. I'm putting that 10 into the ones place, so I'm adding a group of 10. I already had 2, so now I have 12. This time I'll write it like this. Remember last time I crossed it out and I wrote it up here on top. Either is okay. You'll see students do one or the other. Now I can do 12 minus 9 in the ones place, and I get 3. Quickly check with addition. 9 plus 3, 9, 10, 11, 12, and that's my total right here. When I move to the tens place, this time this problem is a little bit different from the first one. Now I have 1 group of 10 minus 7 groups of 10, or 10 minus 70. I don't have enough, so I need to regroup again. This one's different because this time we have to regroup again, and before, this number, or this digit, the tens place was less. This time it's not. So now I need to go to the hundreds place to get more tens. So if I had 3 hundreds and I take 100 away, I only have 2. This time I'm taking, if I draw it in base 10 blocks, I'm taking a group of 100 and I'm turning it into 10 tens. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. These two things are equal. It's just like I'm taking the whole 100 and snapping it into tens. So I had one group of 10 here, and now I'm adding 10 more tens. This is the same idea as right here. Students might either cross out that one group of 10 and write 11 tens, or they might just add a 10 right there. The important thing now for students to see is that 11 sticks of 10 is 110. So students have learned this trick where if we just add a 0, that gives me 110. They might also need to see it as a picture. So 11 tens, if I just add one more, 100, one more is 110. So if they need to see it as a picture, encourage them to draw that on the side if they need to. But they need to understand that 11 tens is the same thing as 110. So now when I go to subtract, I can think about this as 11 tens minus 7 tens. The benefit of thinking about it with the words is that it's easier because it's like doing 11 minus 7. So when I do 11 minus 7, I get 4, and it's not just 4, it's 4 tens. If I thought about that as real numbers, 11 tens is 110 minus 7 tens, which is 70. Now, here's the benefit right here. A lot of students are going to struggle if they see 110 minus 70. It's a lot easier if they think about it as 11 tens minus 7 tens. So 110 minus 70 equals 40. These two things are exactly the same thing. One is just easier to think about. So 11 tens minus 7 tens is 40, or 4 tens. So I put a 4 in the tens place. 200 minus 0, there's no hundreds in the number 79. 200 minus 0 is 200, so my difference is 243. If I was going to check with addition, I would add 243, which is one of the parts, plus 79, which was the other part, and I would find the total, which was 322. If I think about this in a total part box, my total was 322. Part of 322 was 79. I can do total minus part to find the missing part, and the missing part was 243. I know that this is a lot for your students, but as you're working at home, the strategy will get easier, and they will continue this strategy in 4th grade. Many students, we've already talked about in class how if they want to practice at home, they just put the bigger number on top and then subtract. I always encourage checking your work with addition. And thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful. And make sure if you're not already following us, you do that, because then you can rewatch all of our videos. Thank you.